President Trump re-ups his threat to strip Harvard of its tax-exempt status. Earlier this morning, Trump put out the Ivy League university on notice. He posted this on Truth Social. "We're going to be taking away Harvard's tax-exempt status. It is what they deserve." No sooner was that posted that Harvard struck back. The school says there is no legal basis to revoke its status. Federal law prohibits the president and senior officials from directly or indirectly asking the IRS to conduct or stop an audit, including other investigations. The White House has already frozen billions of federal grants to Harvard. This after Harvard refused to comply with the list of demands. Harvard is suing the Trump administration for violating its constitutional rights under the First Amendment. And a shot across the bow? Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson issuing a warning about President Trump without naming him. What's her issue? What Jackson calls relentless attacks, disregard, and disparagement of judges nationwide. Yesterday, the High Court Justice issued the warning while speaking at a legal conference in Puerto Rico. Jackson told the audience she was speaking about the elephant in the room. She said that the rhetoric and harassment against judges is a threat to democracy. Jackson said that the attacks are not random. She emphasized that the attacks are designed to intimidate and undermine the rule of law. Jackson is not the only High Court justice to condemn Trump's tough talk towards the judiciary. In March, Chief Justice John Roberts rebuked the president for calling for the impeachment of a federal judge. Professor Emeritus at Harvard Law School and author of the brand new book, Palestinianism, Professor Alan Dershowitz joins me. Good evening, sir. And, I would have somewhat agreement with the justice if she'd done one thing. She takes only one side in her criticism. She didn't talk about the Wisconsin judge allegedly violating the law, the Massachusetts one, or the judges down Fulton County sending poor people to a prison that's unconstitutional, or judges having conflicts of interest. The only thing she criticizes are some language that I take issue with as well. But to me, it undermines her credibility on this issue. Your thoughts?
No, I agree. And she doesn't state the historical precedents. This is not new. Thomas Jefferson attacked judges appointed by John Adams much, much more ferociously. Lincoln attacked judges, indeed suspended the writ of habeas corpus. Franklin Delano Roosevelt intimidated judges, threatened that he would pack the court. And that resulted in the switch in time that saved 9. There would have been impeachments or certainly expanded members of the court had the Supreme Court not changed its opinion. And then, of course, you have Chuck Schumer getting on the steps of the Supreme Court and essentially threatening violence against justices. So, no, Justice Jackson has no credibility unless she puts her criticisms in historical context, unless she goes after Schumer, unless she also goes after other judges. Arguments between the judiciary and the executive are as old as our nation.
Well, I guess that mine is, you talk about the historic issue. The historic issue as well is the fact that there are Democrats that have gone after, said things that are rough about justices. And I think that was one of the things that they thought led to the guy going over to Justice Kavanaugh's house with a knife or a gun or something a couple years ago. But the problem is that what she doesn't criticize is just basic justice in the courtroom. And I use Fulton County, that's sort of my poster child on this. But, she's not criticizing the judges for knowingly sending people to an unconstitutional environment where they find dead bodies in there that have bugs insect infestation. That's okay. That's not objectionable. But what is objectionable if you say something rotten, mean, and rough about a judge?
Yeah, and, I say rotten things about judges, and I'm going to continue to do so as long as judges do rotten things and don't obey the Constitution. Judges are not above the law. The judge who sat on the disgraceful New York trial of Donald Trump for doing something that wasn't even illegal deserves condemnation. The judge in D.C. Who didn't recuse himself, notwithstanding the fact that his daughter is deeply involved in deportation. These judges deserve to be criticized. I will continue to criticize them as I have in my 60-year career. I wrote an article in one of my books called Black Robes, White Lies. I have been going after judges for as long as I've been practicing law. That's part of our system of checks and balances. I'm proud of my attacks on judges. Judges deserve acceptance based only on the quality of their opinions, not on the fact that they're wearing robes.
Well, I'm gonna take a bow on this one. Early on in my career, I took 2 judges on a writ of mandamus to the high court, to the highest court in the District of Columbia, and one for judges doing something that's beyond their authority to do. So, I mean, you know, I think one of the problems too is that lawyers are afraid of judges. They're afraid of what they're going to say about people at the country club. I don't know what it is, but you better be willing to fight hard for your client and not be afraid of judges, which is another whole other issue. But there are a lot of lawyers who are cowards.
Well, not only cowards, but they're afraid on behalf of their clients also. I have been in courtrooms where judges have done horrible things, and the lawyers whisper to me, oh my God, I wish I had the guts to stand up and tell him what I think. But judges take it out on lawyers who don't treat them with the kind of reverence that they want to be treated to. So I'm completely in favor of judges being subject to scrutiny and to criticism. And I don't think judges should be treated any differently than presidents and members of the legislature. We have 3 branches of government, and they're all subject to criticism and condemnation if they deserve it. Generally, judges don't fight back. But when judges begin to fight back, as we see the Chief Justice and Justice Jackson beginning to fight back, then they're putting themselves into the fray, and they should not expect to be immunized from criticism.
But they should be comprehensive and inclusive, and not just pick, you know, not just sliver off the one part they don't like as mean things said about judges. But anyway, I mean, you mentioned Judge Merchan in the New York case. I think one of the greatest disappointments for me in that case is the fact that it was sort of after President Trump was reelected in November, is that it got put sort of on hold. It'll never go up to the Court of Appeals, so all his rulings won't get reviewed, so that we really won't get a chance, because that indictment should have been dismissed. It was the most, and the judge didn't dismiss it. I mean, he is protected by the fact that he essentially buried the case because he put it on hold for, and it's gone away. I mean, I'm sure Trump likes that, but it's gone away, but not for the American people.
Greta, I rarely disagree with you, but this time I do. The case is going to be appealed. Trump has hired Sullivan and Cromwell to be his lawyers to appeal the case.
Appeal what,
it will
though?
go first to the appellate division, then to the Court of Appeals, and ultimately the Supreme Court. Yes, the judge tried to,
even though he hasn't been sentenced, even though he hasn't been. Explain to me.
But I don't think he did a particularly good job. The case will be appealed.
All right, well, I defer to your last tomorrow, but explain to me, he wasn't sentenced, so how does it get appealed?
He gave a sentence that was a non-sentence, but it's enough to end the case and allow him to appeal. And I don't think the appeal has yet been filed. I don't think the briefs have yet been filed, but there is, I think, a schedule now, and there will be an appeal. Now, the court may say, wait a minute, there was no sentence, so we have no jurisdiction. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to handle the appeal. I think they're going to reverse the conviction. And if they don't reverse the conviction, a higher court will. This is the weakest case in my 60 years of practicing law I have ever seen, criminal appeal.
All right, well, I hope you're right. I'm wrong, but I think the Court of Appeals will say that there's no sentence, so no harm, no foul, even though there has been an enormous amount of harm. But we'll see. You're probably right. Anyway, Professor Alan Dershowitz, right always. Thank you, sir.
You always turn out to be right, so we'll wait and see.
People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.